Hyenas are probably the most unfairly hated mammals on the planet, and I say that with full confidence. Between the Lion King turning them into bumbling villains and centuries of folklore painting them as cowardly scavengers, hyenas have gotten one of the worst public relations deals in the entire animal kingdom. But here's the thing. Almost everything most people think they know about hyenas is either wrong or wildly incomplete. These are incredibly intelligent, socially complex, and ecologically important animals that deserve way more respect than they get. So today, we're going through 15 mind-blowing facts about hyenas that I think are really going to change your mind about these misunderstood mammals. Let's get into it. Number 1. Spotted hyenas are among the most intelligent carnivores on Earth, and their cognitive abilities rival those of some primates. This is one of those facts that catches people completely off guard because the popular image of hyenas as dumb, laughing scavengers is so deeply ingrained. But the research tells a very different story. Spotted hyenas have been tested on problem-solving tasks, cooperative challenges, and social cognition experiments, and they consistently perform at levels that match or exceed wolves, dogs, and even some great apes. In one famous study, pairs of hyenas were presented with a cooperative task that required 2 individuals to pull ropes simultaneously to access food. They figured it out faster than chimpanzees did on a comparable task. Their brains are large relative to their body size, and their frontal cortex, the region associated with planning, decision-making, and social reasoning, is highly developed. Researchers who work with spotted hyenas consistently describe them as quick learners, creative problem solvers, and socially strategic in ways that go far beyond simple instinct. They remember individual relationships, track social hierarchies involving dozens of clan members, and adjust their behavior based on who's watching. That's a level of social intelligence that puts them in genuinely elite cognitive territory among mammals. And it shows up in practical ways too. Spotted hyenas have been observed using deceptive tactics during feeding. A subordinate hyena will sometimes give alarm calls to scatter the group away from a carcass, then sneak back to feed while everyone else is distracted. That's tactical deception, which is a cognitive ability that requires understanding what other individuals know and manipulating their behavior accordingly. That's a big deal, and it's the kind of thing that used to be considered uniquely primate behavior. Number 2. Spotted hyena clans are matriarchal, and the social structure is one of the most complex of any terrestrial carnivore. In a spotted hyena clan, females outrank all males, period. The highest-ranking male in a clan is subordinate to the lowest-ranking female. That's an unusual power dynamic in the mammal world, and it shapes everything about how hyena society functions. Clans can number up to 80 or more individuals, and they're organized into strict linear hierarchies where every single member knows its rank relative to every other member. Rank is inherited through the mother. The daughters of a high-ranking female are born into high rank, and they maintain it through a combination of maternal support and learned social behavior. Sons, on the other hand, leave their birth clan when they reach maturity and join a new clan at the very bottom of the male hierarchy, regardless of what rank their mother held. This matrilineal system means that female spotted hyenas are larger, more aggressive, and more socially dominant than males, which is the reverse of what you see in most mammal species. And the females enforce their dominance actively. They have priority access to food, they choose their own mates, and they control the social dynamics of the clan. It's a genuinely remarkable social system, and it's one of the reasons spotted hyenas have been so successful across sub-Saharan Africa. Number 3. The spotted hyena's famous laugh is actually a complex social signal, not an expression of amusement. That cackling, whooping sound that everybody associates with hyenas is technically called a giggle, and it's just one of at least 14 distinct vocalizations that spotted hyenas use. The giggle is most commonly produced during situations of social conflict or excitement, feeding competition, interactions with dominant individuals, or during group hunts. Researchers have found that the pitch and pattern of the giggle convey information about the caller's age, social status, and emotional state. A subordinate hyena being pushed off a carcass by a dominant one will produce a very different giggle than a hyena that's excited about a kill. And other hyenas can read those differences. Beyond the giggle, spotted hyenas produce whoops that carry for miles across the savanna and function as long-distance contact calls, low groaning sounds during social greetings, and a variety of growls, yells, and grunts that each mean different things in different contexts. Number 4. Hyenas are not primarily scavengers. Spotted hyenas in particular are highly effective hunters. This might be the single biggest misconception about hyenas, and it drives researchers absolutely crazy. The image of hyenas as cowardly scavengers stealing food from lions is almost exactly backwards. Studies across multiple sites in Africa have shown that spotted hyenas hunt for the majority of their food, In the Serengeti, for example, they kill roughly 95% of what they eat. They're endurance predators that can sustain speeds of 35 miles per hour over long distances, running their prey to exhaustion in chases that can cover several miles. They hunt cooperatively, with different clan members taking turns leading the pursuit, and they're capable of taking down wildebeest, zebras, and even young buffalo. And here's the irony that really gets me. In many ecosystems, it's actually the lions that are more likely to scavenge from hyenas than the other way around. Lions frequently use their size advantage to drive hyenas off their kills and steal the food. So the popular narrative has it completely backwards. Hyenas do scavenge when the opportunity presents itself, because why wouldn't they? Free food is free food. But they are fundamentally predators, and very good ones at that. Their hunting strategy is also remarkably adaptable. They read the landscape and adjust their tactics accordingly, which is another indicator of that cognitive flexibility I mentioned earlier. And their stamina is phenomenal. While a cheetah can outrun a hyena in a sprint, a hyena can maintain pursuit for miles at a pace that eventually exhausts almost any prey animal. They're the marathon runners of the African predator world. Number 5, hyenas have the strongest bite force relative to body size of any mammal. A spotted hyena's jaws can generate a bite force of over 1,100 pounds per square inch, which is strong enough to crush bone. And that's exactly what they do. Hyenas are specialized bone crushers. Their premolar teeth are specifically adapted for breaking open the thick bones of large ungulates to access the nutrient-rich marrow inside. They can process parts of a carcass that virtually no other predator can eat, including hooves, horns, teeth, and bones. Their digestive system is equally impressive. Hyena stomach acid is powerful enough to dissolve bone, and their droppings are characteristically white because of all the calcium from the digested bone material. This bone-crushing ability gives hyenas a significant ecological advantage because it means they waste almost nothing. A hyena clan can reduce a wildebeest carcass to practically nothing in a matter of minutes, and that efficiency isn't just impressive, it's ecologically important. By consuming every part of a carcass, including the bones, hyenas help prevent the spread of disease and recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem more completely than almost any other predator. Number 6. The aardwolf is a hyena that eats almost nothing but termites, and it is absolutely adorable. I love this fact because it completely breaks the mold of what people think a hyena is. The aardwolf looks like a small, delicate, striped hyena, and it lives across eastern and southern Africa. But unlike its bone-crushing cousins, the aardwolf has tiny, peg-like teeth that are basically useless for eating meat. Instead, it feeds almost exclusively on harvester termites, lapping them up with a broad, sticky tongue. A single aardwolf can eat up to 300,000 termites in a single night. It's shy, nocturnal, mostly solitary, and about as far from the stereotypical hyena as you can possibly get. The aardwolf is a beautiful reminder that the hyena family is far more diverse than most people realize, and that evolution can take closely related animals in wildly different directions. If the spotted hyena is the powerhouse of the family, the aardwolf is the gentle, insect-eating cousin that nobody expected. Number 7. Spotted hyenas have a female reproductive anatomy that is unlike anything else in the mammal world. This is one of those facts that tends to leave people genuinely stunned. Female spotted hyenas have what's called a pseudopenis, an elongated clitoris that closely resembles a male's penis in size and shape. They urinate mate and give birth through this structure, which makes them extremely difficult to sex visually in the field. Giving birth through the pseudopenis is extraordinarily difficult and dangerous. The birth canal is narrow and long, and first-time mothers have a high rate of stillbirths and complications. Cub mortality during birth is significant, and maternal mortality for first-time mothers is also elevated compared to other large carnivores. Scientists believe this unusual anatomy evolved as a result of the high levels of androgens, male hormones, that female spotted hyenas are exposed to during development in the womb. Those same androgens are likely responsible for the female's larger body size and greater aggression compared to males. It's a fascinating example of how evolution doesn't always produce elegant solutions. Sometimes the adaptations that give a species advantages in one area create significant challenges in another. Before we move on to number 8, I just want to take a quick second to say that if you're enjoying this video, subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button really does make a huge difference. It helps more people discover this content and lets us keep making these deep dives into the mammal world. Also, if there's an animal you want us to cover next, drop it in the comments. I read every one, and your suggestions genuinely shape what we work on. All right, let's get back to hyenas. Number 8. Hyenas are surprisingly devoted mothers, and the maternal investment in spotted hyena clans is extraordinary. A spotted hyena mother nurses her cubs for an incredibly long time, up to 18 months or more, which is one of the longest nursing periods of any terrestrial carnivore. Hyena milk is extremely rich, with a fat content of around 14%, which is several times higher than most other carnivores. This allows mothers to leave their cubs at the communal den for extended periods while they go off to hunt or socialize, because the cubs can survive on fewer, richer feedings. And those communal dens are fascinating in themselves. They're central gathering points where multiple mothers leave their cubs, and the cubs socialize, play, and establish dominance relationships that will shape their adult lives. Mothers are fiercely protective of their offspring and will aggressively defend them against any threat, including other clan members. High-ranking mothers provide their cubs with significant advantages: better access to food at kills, more social support, and inherited rank that will serve them throughout their lives. And the communal den dynamics are genuinely fascinating to watch. Cubs from different mothers interact constantly, and through their play and competition, the rank structure of the next generation starts to take shape. A cub from a high-ranking mother quickly learns that it can assert itself over cubs from lower-ranking mothers, and the lower-ranking cubs learn to defer. It's not taught explicitly. It emerges from the social environment, reinforced by the mother's own behavior when they're present. By the time cubs leave the den and start accompanying adults to kills, their place in the hierarchy is already largely established. It's social inheritance in action, and it mirrors patterns we see in some primate societies. Number 9. Spotted hyenas have some of the most complex social recognition abilities ever documented in a non-primate mammal. They can recognize and remember the identities, ranks, and kinship relationships of dozens of clan members simultaneously. Researchers have tested this by playing recorded vocalizations of different individuals and watching the response. Hyenas react differently depending on not just who is calling, but what that individual's rank is relative to their own, whether the caller is an ally or a rival, and whether the caller's kin group is friendly or hostile. That means a single hyena is carrying around a mental database of social information about every individual in a clan of 80+ members. Some researchers have compared this cognitive challenge to what primates face in large social groups, and they've suggested that the social complexity of hyena clans may have driven the evolution of their large brains in much the same way that primate sociality drove primate brain evolution. It's called the social brain hypothesis, and hyenas are one of the strongest non-primate cases for it. Number 10. Hyenas play a crucial role in African ecosystems that goes far beyond just predation. As both hunters and scavengers, hyenas are essentially the cleanup crew of the savanna. They consume carcasses more thoroughly than any other large carnivore, which reduces the risk of disease transmission from rotting meat. Their bone-crushing ability means they process parts of a carcass that would otherwise sit on the landscape for months. Their droppings return calcium and other minerals to the soil. And as predators, they exert top-down pressure on herbivore populations that helps maintain the balance of grazing ecosystems. In areas where hyena populations have been reduced or eliminated, researchers have documented increases in disease, changes in herbivore behavior, and cascading effects on vegetation. They're a keystone species in every sense of the term, and losing them would have consequences that ripple through the entire ecosystem. And yet, because of their reputation, hyenas receive a fraction of the conservation attention and funding that lions, leopards, and cheetahs get. It's a real blind spot in African wildlife conservation, and it's one that needs to change. I've talked to wildlife biologists who've spent years studying hyenas, and they all say the same thing. The hardest part of their job isn't the science, it's convincing people that hyenas are worth studying in the first place. Funding agencies, wildlife tourists, and even some conservation organizations tend to prioritize the more photogenic predators, but the ecosystem doesn't care about charisma, it cares about function. And hyenas are among the most functionally important predators on the African continent. Number 11. Striped hyenas and brown hyenas are the quiet, overlooked members of the family, and they're both facing serious conservation challenges. While spotted hyenas get most of the attention, the striped hyena ranges across North and East Africa, the Middle East, and into Central Asia, making it the most widely distributed hyena species geographically. It's primarily a scavenger, nocturnal, and much more solitary than its spotted cousin. Brown hyenas are found only in southern Africa, mainly in the Kalahari and Namib desert regions. and they're the rarest of the large hyena species. Both are listed as near threatened, and they face habitat loss, persecution by humans, and declining prey and scavenging opportunities. Because they're less charismatic and less studied than spotted hyenas, they receive very little conservation investment. Most people don't even know they exist, which is a shame because they're beautiful, ecologically important animals in their own right. Number 12. Hyenas have been part of human culture and mythology for thousands of years, and almost none of it has been flattering. Across Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, hyenas appear in folklore as symbols of cowardice, greed, witchcraft, and moral corruption. In some East African traditions, hyenas are associated with sorcery and grave robbing. European medieval bestiaries describe them as morally corrupt creatures that robbed graves and changed sex. And of course, modern pop culture hasn't done them any favors either. This cultural baggage has real consequences for conservation. It's much harder to rally public support and funding for an animal that most people instinctively dislike. Contrast the conservation messaging around lions, elephants, or pandas with the almost total absence of pro-hyena campaigns, and you start to see the problem. Changing these deep-rooted cultural narratives is one of the most important and most difficult challenges in hyena conservation. It requires not just science, but storytelling, finding ways to help people see hyenas for what they actually are, rather than what mythology has told them to believe. And to be fair, some cultures have had more nuanced views. In parts of West Africa, hyenas appear in trickster stories that, while not exactly flattering, at least credit them with cleverness and cunning. And some modern conservation efforts have started incorporating local storytelling traditions to reframe hyenas as valuable members of the ecosystem rather than symbols of evil. It's slow work, but it's important work, because you can't protect an animal that people have been taught to despise. Number 13. Spotted hyenas have demonstrated a capacity for play, curiosity, and what looks a lot like a sense of humor. This is one of those areas where spending time watching hyena behavior really changes your perception. Hyena cubs are incredibly playful. They wrestle, chase each other, steal objects and play keep away, and generally act like rambunctious puppies. But play doesn't stop in childhood. Adult hyenas have been observed playing with objects, splashing in water, and engaging in social play with clanmates. Researchers have reported hyenas investigating novel objects with what can only be described as curiosity, poking at camera traps, carrying off researchers' equipment, and generally being mischievous in a way that suggests a genuine interest in their environment beyond just finding food and avoiding threats. That kind of exploratory, playful behavior is associated with intelligence across the mammal world, and it's one of the things that makes hyenas such engaging animals to study. Number 14. Hyenas can count. Well, sort of. Spotted hyenas have been shown to assess the number of individuals in a rival group and adjust their behavior accordingly. When a group of hyenas hears the whoops of an approaching rival party, they assess how many callers there are and compare that to the size of their own group. If they're outnumbered, they retreat. If they have the advantage, they approach. And the threshold isn't random. Their behavior changes at specific ratios, suggesting they're making genuine numerical assessments rather than just responding to volume. This kind of numerical competence has been documented in only a handful of non-primate mammals, and it's another piece of evidence that spotted hyenas are operating at a cognitive level that most people drastically underestimate. And finally, number 15. Hyenas deserve better, and understanding them is the first step toward protecting them. This is the one I want to leave you with because I think it matters more than any single fact on this list. Hyenas are in trouble across much of their range. Spotted hyenas are still relatively numerous in some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, but they've been eliminated from large portions of their historic range, and populations are declining in many areas due to habitat loss, poisoning, snaring, and human-wildlife conflict. Striped and brown hyenas are in even worse shape, and the aardwolf, while not currently endangered, depends on grassland habitats that are increasingly being converted to agriculture. The fundamental problem is that hyenas don't get the love, but everything we've talked about today, their intelligence, their social complexity, their ecological importance, their remarkable biology, makes a compelling case that hyenas deserve just as much attention and protection as any other large carnivore in Africa. And it starts with education. Every person who walks away from this video seeing hyenas differently is a small win for these animals. Because the more people understand what hyenas actually are, the harder it becomes to justify ignoring them. And they have been ignored for way too long. The good news is that the tide is starting to turn. There's still a long way to go, but the conversation is changing, and that gives me real hope. So there you have it, 15 mind-blowing facts about hyenas. I hope you learned something today that changes the way you think about these incredible animals. Let me know in the comments which fact surprised you the most, or if there's a hyena fact I missed that you think absolutely should have made the list. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share it with someone who still thinks hyenas are just scavengers. They need to hear this. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.